We went from Van Zan Van Sham. Now we're diving into Preserve even further with the reporter from the Daily Mail that broke the story about Blake Lively. Diddy, the trial has continued on, and Cassie's mom is speaking out, claiming he made her pay her $20,000. We'll dive into why. Kim Kardashian's trial is coming to a close this week, and we have lots that we will be diving into. I hope you're ready for it. Let's dive in. You're listening to No Filter with Zack Peter, your go-to source for all the latest pop culture and reality TV tea, served fresh all week long. Now, let's dive in. What's up, guys? Welcome on in, welcome on in, welcome on in. Happy, what's today? Wednesday, happy hump day. Hope you're getting humped today. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome on in, welcome on in, welcome on in. Just a reminder, if you have not done so yet, go and get your tickets to the Zactivated tour this summer. I am going on tour with my pals. I'm coming to Dallas, Phoenix, Philadelphia, Toronto, Brooklyn, Chicago, Seattle, Los Angeles. In Dallas, I have Colonel Kurtz that's going to be breaking down all the yummy discovery with me. In Phoenix, I have Andy from Popcorn Planet. In Philly, I have the Brav Bros and Giorgio Says. In Toronto, I have some very special guests that I'm going to be announcing soon. In Brooklyn, I have Donna Bowling. In Chicago, I have Donna Bowling and Chef Stu. In Seattle, I have the Sidley Twins. In Los Angeles, I have Louis Levanti and Spill Sessions Christy. Andy Lawani from the Pop Report is also going to be joining. So lots of fun, so much tea. It's going to be a good time. It's always a good time. Donna says, I wish I could come on tour with you, but I'm in the UK. That's okay, my love. That is A-OK. Okay. Hopefully, if you guys are available and you can come on tour, get your tickets right now at nofilterlive.com. Go to nofilterlive.com and in the live chat or in a comment below, drop what city you will be coming to so I can give you a shout out. Also, this week on the show, I have Lauren from the Random Court of Court of Random Opinion. Sorry, Lauren from Court of Random Opinion that's going to be on the podcast tomorrow with Leanne Newton. That's going to be a fun episode. We're going to be diving into the Ryan Reynolds of it all and these motions to sanction and what they actually mean. We'll dive into all of that on Thursday's episode of the show. And then Friday will be a fun pop culture roundup with Louis Levanti and Christy from Spill Sesh. They will be on the podcast this Friday. So it's going to be a jam-packed week. Today, I have on Josh Boswell, senior reporter for the Daily Mail. He's the one that broke the Van Sham lawsuit subpoena story. He also broke the Blake Lively Preserve story. So I'm going to be talking to him all about that. But be sure to get your tickets to the Zactivated tour this summer. Let's get it. Yes, we're so close. We are almost at 100K. Guys, we're so close to 100. We're at 99.4. We are literally less than 600 away. 600 away, less than 600 away from hitting 100K. You guys, I think we may get this next week. Like by next week, we may end up definitely before the end of the month. What do we have? 10 days left in the month? We have 10 days left in the month. Okay, so 600 divided by 10 is 60. That's only 60 subscribers per day. Nicole says, I just bought VIP tickets for Chicago. Yay. I'm so excited to meet you in person. Your podcast has gotten me through some dark times. Thank you. I'm really excited about Chicago. I feel like members only has 100K by next week for sure. Thank you, Lisa. That's the goal. Subscribe, guys. Subscribe. I have a very special guest that I'm so excited about for Chicago. We're announcing all the content creators first. So we'll have another round of content creator announcements this week. And then in June is when we're going to announce the headliners. So like I said, every show of the live tour, the first half of the show is going to be a panel of tea spillers. So we're going to be spilling royalty. We're going to be talking Blake and Baldoni discovery. We're going to be talking about all the reality TV tea, whatever's hot in the headlines this week. I'll be breaking it down with a different panel. Each city, there'll be some fresh faces. Like I said, Andy, Colonel Kurtz, Donna, Stu, Spill Sesh, so many Brav Bros, so many different fun faces that you'll be seeing pop up throughout the different cities on the tour. So stay tuned. And then special guests are going to be announced in June. And I'm excited as we're finally confirming everything. Chicago, though, like is a very special, like I did a lot of philanthropy work and Dallas and Chicago were 2 cities that we would fundraise a lot in. Um, so yeah. Also, by the way, guys, I know you were asking for merch. There's new merch. It is coming. It's gonna be dropping just in time for summer. So if you've been asking for it, your requests may be granted. I may even be bringing back some Justice for Justin shirts. If you want Justice for Justin shirts, I think you need to be like, more Justice for Justin shirts. I think we'll do another charity campaign. My birthday's in June, and I'm thinking June 1st through my birthday, which is June 15th. We'll do a new charity campaign, and I'll do another donation of proceeds. So stay tuned for that. But let me know if you want more Justice for Justin shirts, and maybe we'll restock on those. Um, okay. I want to get into Josh Boswell is uber hot. I love him. He is a cutie, right? He has a girlfriend though, but like he's got the accent and the glasses. Someone said he looks like the guy from what was that Atlantis cartoon? Finding Atlantis or something. The City Underground was something. That was like that cartoon from back in the day. He does kind of look like the guy from that though, which is funny. Okay, really quickly, let's get a quick message from this week's sponsor, and then we'll dive into Blake Lively's yummiest announcement. Are you feeling off after the COVID vaccine? Well, you're not alone, and new research backs it up. In a groundbreaking study, risk stratisfaction for future cardiac arrest after the jab, Dr. Peter McCullough highlights an alarming rise in sudden cardiac events among young and previously healthy individuals. His study found that tiny hidden patches of heart inflammation, often missed by doctors, could silently be building up, leading to sudden heart attacks during exercise or sleep. That's why the wellness company created the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox, crafted with 100% natural ingredients specifically designed to help your body clear harmful spike proteins, reduce inflammation, and support heart health. Don't wait until symptoms strike. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. McCullough, a top freedom fighting doctor who risked it all. Head to twc.health/nofilter and use code NOFILTER to get 15% off plus free shipping. Again, that's twc.health/nofilter and use code NOFILTER to get 15% off. Get back to that pre-COVID feeling. Riley, yes, I think you are correct. I think it was the Lost Treasure of Atlantis. I think that's what it was called, right? The Lost Treasure of Atlantis. Is no. No, Lost Treasure of Atlantis, I think, is alive. Oh, no. Oh, it's called, Atlantis: The Lost Empire. That's what it is. Atlantis: The Lost Empire. That's where we recognize Josh from. I wonder if he knows that. Um, it's not The Lost Treasure of Atlantis. It is this one. Look, doesn't it look just like him? He's gonna pop on in just a few minutes. We're gonna get into the Diddy of it all. We're gonna get into the Kim Kardashian trial. We're gonna get into the Blake Lively of it all. But his name is Milo. Yes. But I wanted to start with Blake Lively's latest. I mean, obviously, she has her latest announcement, which is her yummy hair mist, right? Blake Brown has now branched out and they have hair and body mist. So you can spray it in your hair and then your hair smells like Blake Lively, or you could spray it all over your body. And I mean, this is all great advertising for Blake Brown. Am I right? But bump. What did she post? Hold on, let's read her actual announcement of all of this. Blake Lively. Um, she said, "We've spent over 7 years building Blake Brown, and it took that long because we were uncompromising with the quality, sustainability, cleanliness, performance, results, accessible price point, and one other element that usually isn't factored into hair care: fragrance." And then she goes on. She said, "But we never planned to bottle our fragrance, not until you asked us to, over and over again. We built this company 7.5 years ago, but now it's in your hands. You are the authors. We are here for you, because of you. So we thank you for bringing our new babies into the world." So she's saying that everybody was asking for this. Everybody wanted this hair mist. To 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 her yummy announcement, I respond, "Everyone is asking you to please stop, to please just stop. We don't need any more. We don't want any more. We're already over it. We're done. We like, let this be a wrap now." But so she posted that Ryan Reynolds is the number one fan of her new hair and body mist. She said he legitimately uses our hair and body mist. His favorite is the Wild Nectar Santal. I thought he was just being the best and most supportive husband, but he genuinely loves to wear them and they smell so yummy. There we go. It's back to yummy. They smell so yummy and sexy on him. His skin picks up the more woody and masculine tones with the highlighter sweetness falling in the background, creating an overall smoothness. It's also compliments to cologne. It also complements the cologne he wears if he has that from earlier in the day. It's amazing how versatile the fragrance can be and how it adapts to the wearer of any age or gender. Smelling so different on him than me and different on us than our moms and our teenage family members. All the things that were the key to us while creating these scents. We at Blake Brown Beauty couldn't be more proud to share them with you and your husbands. So you can get it for yourself or your husband. Grab your friends, grab your husbands, spray my body mist, and smell so yummy. Mm, yum. Ashley says she's sniffing him. Is that harassment? At this point, anything might be harassment. Her investors are asking for it. They need to be paid. Yeah. Yeah. Mildly says, you're literally suing a dude for saying your spray tan smells nice, girl. What are you doing? Isn't that crazy? And she's like, but spray this on your husband and he'll smell so yummy and sexy. That's what's crazy. She like it's crazy. Have Josh at your LA show. Oh, that's a good idea. I will have to invite Josh to the LA. Are you coming to the LA show, Mordecai? If you're coming, then there you go. Enough, Zach. Can't do that. Damn smelling products from Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Sniff, sniff, no more. Sniff, sniff, no more. Indeed. Um, but yeah, she's pushing the product. She's saying, "Come on down, grab your friends, wear your floral, spray your husband in my mist, so he can smell so yummy, so yummy." I mean, who would have thought that Blake Lively and Blake Brown would just be saving all your husbands? She's like, "Look at, I can spraying it all over," and she's like, "Look at, ooh, smell me. Do I smell good? Harassment. Don't look at me. Look at me. Don't look at me. Look at me." Like she just seems very manic in that way with everything that she's been doing lately. But good for her. I'm glad that, Blake Brown, there was so much demand and the people were asking for it. So clearly she's listening to some people. She's just not listening to the majority of people that are telling her to please just stop. Please, enough. Oh, look it. I guess this ended up this ended up hitting in a new article for the Daily Mail. Tone deaf Ryan Reynolds pimps out Blake Lively's hair care range as shocking allegations emerge about her lifestyle company. So, I mean, it's interesting that we're getting some pickup. Um, but at the same time, I also just kind of feel like even though we're getting some pickup about this story, nobody's really covering it the way it needs to be covered. So I figured why let them when we can spread the story far and wide? And who better to have on the show with me today than the guy that broke the story? We know him from the Van Zandt sham lawsuit story that he broke a couple weeks ago. And now he's back to talk about one of Blake's other companies, and that is Preserve. Josh Boswell from the Daily Mail. How you doing, Josh?
I'm good, thanks. Good to be with you, Zach.
Good to have you back. Did you get to go on a deep dive when you looked into Blake's Goop-esque style company, Preserve? Were there any yummy recipes that you were excited to try out?
It was actually kind of a hilarious throwback to you remember deep kind of hipster millennial fashion. Like they kind of got that on point. That's one thing I will say
Yep.
in that company's favor. They really nailed that whole oh, we're just going off to the park to have a picnic, but everything's extremely artisanal kind of feel.
Yeah, and even the filters, like at that time, that was like the era of heavy Instagram filters, so it
So
fit that
heavy.
aesthetic.
Yeah.
It was wild. But I saw that the cut described it as I think they compared it to a horror film because it was all like black with white text and it was very moody. Whereas like Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop was very like bright and it was very, it had more of a chic element to it.
Yeah, I totally. You looking at the two websites, you can kind of see why Goop did well and why they didn't. And it's funny, Blake actually mentioned that in an interview, kind of like dissecting why the whole thing fell apart, where she didn't talk about, of course, all of the legal issues that her company got into. But she did say, oh, the way we designed the website, we wanted it to be like Tumblr, and there was like all this crap on the website, but that didn't really work for selling produce, selling like all the products they had on there. So it's kind of a bit of a disaster in every which way, like the design, the kind of basic business model with they're trying to sell artisanal products and you can't like scale that up to a mass market. It just kind of every which way you looked, it didn't work.
No, it didn't. And it crashed and burned because it only lasted about a year before she called it a wrap. And she even tried to like use her pregnancy to help push it. She announced her pregnancy on the website, and ultimately, despite everything she tried, it didn't work. But so the company was launched in 2014. Can you talk us through the inception and how the company kind of just went downhill once her brother Eric came on board?
Yeah. So at the beginning, it seemed like it was a good idea. Other celebrities were doing this, and it seemed like it was getting off to a good start. Blake Lively actually kind of incubated this company through a marketing firm that already existed in LA. She partnered with this successful entrepreneur there, and they hired a couple of staff. They were using this marketing firm's like other staff to help build the initial company. And everything was going fine. It was all professional. They were building the site, all of that stuff. That was kind of like mid 2014, going through 2014. And then it seems Eric Lively, her brother, got involved. And what I was told was that the previous manager, director of the firm either got booted or left. And Eric took control of things. They actually moved the company, the kind of like actual workings of the company, to New York. Firstly, for a while, up to Blake's upstate New York house. There were a couple of staff working out of there for a while. And then it got moved to Eric's apartment, his fifth floor walk up in Lower Manhattan. And that was where things really started to go downhill. So he hired his own kind of handpicked crew of about 8 or so people, mostly in their 20s. A lot of them had like good marketing experience working for other like apparel or e-commerce companies, and they were all gathered into this studio apartment where he had a Murphy bed that he would put down when he was going to sleep and then put it back up again. Sometimes he would put it back up again in the morning. And what the staff I spoke to told me was that things really devolved from kind of beginning of 2015 onwards. You had just all of these conflicts with Eric. Do you want to jump in with the question?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask, how involved, based off of the staffers that you chatted with, was Blake in the company? Because it seemed like she was very much the face of the company. But my impression of reading your article was that he was the one that was handling more of the operations, and maybe they were kind of just using her likeness and her image to sell this business, which ultimately may have been the reason it collapsed.
Yeah, what I was told by staff was that she was they ran things by her. They would have kind of regular Zoom meetings, or it maybe wasn't Zoom at that time, like a video call meeting, and she would approve products that would go on the websites. There were a couple of photo shoots, which, some of which were very delayed, some of which were bungled, that she took part in. And that was pretty much the extent of it. She was kind of like this figurehead overseeing it all, and Eric was running the day-to-day.
And obviously, he wasn't running it very well. I mean, they didn't have desks to sit at in his apartment. He was, I think, having an affair with one of the staffers.
Yeah, so Eric, he was married in 2005. Him and his wife are still together, as far as we know. And she doesn't feature much in his social media, though. She hasn't been in any of his posts for several years, as far as I can see. But he actually, I was told by 3 members of staff, began having an affair with one of the employees. And that made some of them kind of uncomfortable because they knew that he was married, that Eric was married. And so, this was a bit of an issue. He also, I mean, in terms of like the other, what they called unprofessional stuff that was allegedly going on there, like you said, weeks, if not months of no tables and chairs. So they were sat on the floor of this apartment doing their work, on their laptops. he would blow very hot and cold. Some of them claimed. They said that, it was like walking on eggshells every time you came into the office, because they didn't know whether he was going to be, blowing up and in a mood, or he was going to be really happy and friendly and nice and bubbly. He was very charismatic as a boss, and he kind of like sucked people in as kind of a friend type feeling, but he was your boss. And so people ended up staying hours and hours at work, working late, because it was, not very well organized. And so they were working kind of into the middle of the night. But also it was because it was kind of a social thing for him as well. It was like where he lived too. The really bad stuff came with alleged drug use as well. He was allegedly drinking, smoking pot, and taking prescription medication in the workplace. And some of the drug taking was allegedly, when employees had showed up to work, they're outside this apartment. It's like winter in New York, so they're freezing their asses off outside. It's past 9 a.m. They're knocking on the door. They're calling his cell phone. He's not picking up. He's not letting them in the house. He's apparently still in bed. And I was told sometimes he would be smoking a bowl in bed, because they would come up and eventually be let in later in the morning, and the place would stink of weed. And then, they'd even see him smoking pot on the job. It was not legal then as well. Now, I think most people are kind of whatever about weed, but in the workplace, it made them feel uncomfortable. And I think that's the issue.
So now they did bring concerns to Blake, right? They sat down. They had their own all hands meeting essentially with her. How did that go?
Yeah. So this is where I think it really becomes an issue for Blake, because until now, like as far as I've told the story to you right now, it's like, okay, well, Blake was hands off, and maybe her brother had didn't run it as he should have. Maybe some of this stuff was bad, and he's to blame perhaps. But then you have this moment where some of the senior staff decide, okay, we have to take our complaints to Blake, and we have to try and get help from her, because we're hitting a brick wall with Eric. So they arrange these meetings with her where she's staying in a hotel in New York. She comes down to visit to Manhattan, and they schedule these meetings. I think at least one of them actually had these meetings where they went in, told her, look, here's all the things that are going wrong at the company. Here's all the things that are causing issues. And as soon as they started talking about Eric, then she shut it down. That's what I was told. They said that she just didn't want to hear any of it, especially not the alleged sexual relationship in the workplace. She did not want to hear about that. And so then she dismissed them. And at that point, that's when some of those employees decided, okay, we've got no other choice. We have to take legal action. And they threatened to sue. It was only then that the company decided to kind of engage with them and respond, when there was this threat of legal action. And they actually settled with some of them, is what I was told by those some of those staffers who worked at the firm. They said, yeah, some of the employees threatened to sue. They got some kind of settlement of up to $300,000 is what I was told. And they were made to sign NDAs because of that. And I think that's part of the reason why this story has not come out until now, is because it's been shut down.
So what compelled these people to speak out now?
Very good question. The ones who gave me an answer to that question, because that was part of what I asked them, and I was digging into this. I'd heard some things about Preserve, and I thought, all right, well, this is worth looking into. When I spoke to them and they were willing to speak out and say this stuff, I'm like, well, why now? It's been years. And they said, some of them, look, the lawsuits that Blake has filed against Justin Baldoni made us feel, like this was so deeply ironic, that what she was putting out there was, I was the victim of a toxic workplace, and there was inappropriate behavior, some of it sexual as well. She accused Baldoni of sexual harassment, of course. And they were saying, well, this is rich. People ought to know that actually in her past, she was the head of a company where similar kinds of behavior was happening, and she didn't give a damn at the time. And she actually tried to shut it down and keep it quiet with NDAs. That's what really got their backs up. And this is all what they're claiming. I did ask Blake and her team for a response. They didn't want to give me a response for the story. So we haven't heard their side to this. And there's always two sides to every story. But this is also coming from multiple employees at the firm. I mean, I spoke to 6 people who worked at this company, and Eric hired 8 people to work in his office in Manhattan. So I've spoken to a good chunk of people at the company, and this is what they're telling me.
Well, it is just interesting the parallels, right? In the drama with Preserve and then the legal action that we're seeing play out with Wayfair, and how, employees, or were they employees or were they contractors, or is that kind of unclear?
So some of the people were definitely, like W-2 staff, as in like, full employees. Some of them might have been in more of an informal contractor role, but certainly Preserve, each one of them that I spoke to, Preserve paid them wages. They paid them money to do work for Preserve. So, in that sense, I'm referring to all of them as employees, but it's possible that some of them were kind of contractors or whatever.
Contractors. Okay, so but it's interesting watching the parallels of like seeing them essentially get fed up and call this meeting with the head, very similar to how Blake and Ryan called this all hands meeting that took place in January of 2024 with concerns that they had with Wayfair, expressed their concerns were not met, and then, suddenly people are being paid off with settlements and legal actions being threatened, and stories end up getting buried for nearly 10 years now. This is 2015, when the company shut down. And what was Blake's reason for shutting this company down? She talked to the press about this.
Yeah, it was very interesting comparing what she told, people in interviews when the company was shutting down versus what I was hearing from the staff. If you just listen to Blake, you would think, oh, well, it's terrible. She was trying her best to start up a wonderful company that was promoting artisans, and it was the dastardly media and it was sexism in society that stopped it working. That, people just want to pit female entrepreneurs against each other, and people want to see people like Blake fail. And that was essentially the argument that she made for why the company didn't work. She did, admit to some design failings of the website and some difficulties with the business plan and whatever. But really, that was the main thrust of what she said. Key thing was there was nothing about mismanagement. There was nothing about, terrible morale among employees because of all of these things that they say happened to them. So it was very much kind of a whitewashing as far as the employees were concerned of what really happened. One other thing I wanted to point out, and it was interesting, you made a few of those parallels to the Baldoni case, right? Of like, that all hands meeting you were saying that happened with Baldoni and Lively, where they put these concerns to them, they claim nothing was done. Similar type thing happened here in Blake Lively's Preserve. Also, part of the reason, I was told by the employees, part of the reason the story didn't come out for 10 years about Preserve is because Leslie Sloan, Blake Lively's PR, helped shut it down. She made sure that the story didn't get out until now. And, there's been other times where other media have been kind of like interested, sniffing around this story. And Leslie Sloan, according to some of the staffers, has managed to tamp it down. So again, that's a similar pattern here of Blake Lively's PR getting swept up in these accusations and being accused of trying to withhold some embarrassing or negative stuff about Blake, when that would show her up as potentially a hypocrite or something of that nature, according to these staff members.
Yeah, and arguably, one can tilt their head and squint their eyes and say, well, this was 10 years ago, she was less experienced, or it was a startup, so the culture maybe is reflective of like a startup of everybody kind of just on their laptops working together in someone's apartment. But I think the bigger issue, and why I would assume all these staffers want to speak out now, is just the hypocrisy or the double standard of, you have skeletons in your closet, you're going to launch this, huge legal warfare against Wayfair and Baldoni.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what really irked them. And so, when I was speaking to them, they were like, all right, you know what? It's time. I'm going to tell the story.
Yeah. And so I would assume they're able to get around those NDAs because nobody was named on the record. They all maintained their anonymity.
So I've spoken to several people at the company. Like I said in the story, it might identify people if I start talking about, what exactly it was, who had what that I spoke to, what exactly did they do at the firm? Did they sign NDAs or didn't they? Because there's not that many people there. I can't go into whether people I spoke to had NDAs or not. But what I can tell you is that I know that some staff at the firm did have NDAs, and that contributed to the story not coming out until now.
Yeah. Um, Two other things that I wanted to touch on. Perez Hilton came out and he's claiming that he has a really good source that's reaching out to media outlets and is trying to strong arm them into only covering Blake Lively in a favorable way. And arguably, if you look at the press right now, all of the articles, minus maybe the Daily Mail or Page Six, all of the articles surrounding Blake Lively's coverage in the past several weeks has been very favorable to her. Even if there is a legal win for Baldoni in court, it's usually kind of spun in a way with the lead of a statement from her attorneys. As a reporter, and obviously you've covered Blake Lively in, I think, just a more well-rounded, honest way. Have you heard anything about some of these threats coming from Blake Lively's PR team or her legal team to reporters?
I've not been, threatened or pressured specifically. And I've corresponded with her team, several times, of course, in the course of doing these stories. What I can say is I'm seeing a shift. I'm seeing like a gear change here. I think that this is just my impression that her team are feeling like maybe they didn't go on the offense. They've not been on the offensive enough. They're really trying to push now. And you can see that in the legal filings too. I mean, we've just had her lawyers pushing for sanctions, against Friedman for the stuff that he put in those bombshell things about, the demanding text messages be deleted and all of that with Taylor Swift. I think they might be ramping up both the legal and also the PR kind of war because they feel that they were losing the battle. I think that's what this indicates, that they're actually getting worried that they're losing the national conversation about this, because there is a big national conversation going on. I think that, they know that they can't push us around. We being the Daily Mail, are committed to reporting every part of this story. It's fascinating to our readers. It's an important story. We're looking at covering all sides of it. And we're not going to be swayed by someone saying, well, you have to, sort of only say nice things about Blake. We want to be fair to her, of course.
Right.
And, that's why I went to her about this story and saying like, hey, can you tell me your side of the story about Preserve? But her people didn't want to comment. So there's only so much you can do. And so, yeah, I think you can see this like shift now in them really gearing things up. I'd be interested to see how long it lasts, right? Because when you have publications being kind of influenced or pushed into being more positive about a celebrity like this, or it happens with politicians too, like it happens in like political reporting as well. They're pushed to be more positive and not focus on some negative thing that's happening. And then if you get enough negative stories coming out, enough bad things revealed about the person, let's say we have another few bombshells that happen to come out about, some dastardly things that Blake Lively's done, or some ways in which, she might have been not wholly above board in the Baldoni dispute, then those publications are going to get embarrassed. Imagine you're the editor at a magazine, a popular magazine, and you've been like super pro Blake, and then it turns out that the weight of the evidence suggests that she's a villain. You're going to look kind of dumb. You're going to have to do a U-turn at some point. So it only lasts for so long.
The New York Times.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle this. I think they've been very hands-off, until now for understandable reasons. I wonder if they will come out and kind of really make more of a stance, or make it more of a big deal in their newspaper in future.
I mean, I would imagine I predicted from the beginning that the New York Times was going to turn on Blake in order to save themselves and just be like, listen, this is the story that they gave us. We trusted them. They gave us a legal filing. We trusted that the way they obtained these text messages was ethical. And I think they're going to pass the buck off onto her, the way we're kind of seeing happen with Taylor Swift right now, where she wants nothing to do with Blake and she's really distancing herself from Blake.
Yeah, if you're going to bring other big players into it, like New York Times, like Taylor Swift, or any other big, Hollywood names that may well get swept up into this, you better be sure that they are the closest of friends, that they are going to have your back even when the legal filings are flying. And clearly, that was not the case with Taylor Swift. Taylor, there was not that connection there that was totally unshakable. And Taylor clearly was, it seems to me, she was pissed off at what was happening, excuse my French. And so that bond was not close enough to have her brought in as a defender. And now she's probably going to turn around and not say what Blake wants her to say in these depositions.
Yeah, because I mean, the reality is the one person that can shut down so much of this is Taylor Swift with a single statement. And the only statement we've gotten from her so far is that she didn't have any involvement with the movie and she didn't even see the movie until weeks after it had already been released. So I think her silence speaks volumes. The fact that she's one, she didn't issue a statement of support at the beginning, saying that she supports her friend Blake amid this legal battle. We didn't see the statement that Blake wanted after the Super Bowl, which was to essentially explain her absence and Taylor to lend her support to Blake. And even now, with these, with Friedman coming out with these allegations of extortion against Taylor Swift, she hasn't come out to deny that, which again, I think to me, the silence is deafening.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, there's always the possibility that she just doesn't want to get involved, that she really does, agree with Blake on this or whatever, and she doesn't want to get involved in it because, it's just too much of a legal headache. But you'd think if they were close friends, she would go to bat for her. And you'd think if there was that real deep connection there, wouldn't you, for your, best friend, your ride or die, the godmother of your children, you'd think so. So yeah, I think maybe we can read some things into her silence. It's a good point. Is there any more questions? Because I've got to dash after the next question.
Last question I have for you, and that's just to settle this last debate, and that's on Friedman and the Van Zandt subpoena. Some people are thinking Friedman is the person that was somehow obtained the subpoena and was the one that was circulating it in an effort to make Blake look bad.
Absolutely not. No. I don't like to get into the habit of saying like it wasn't this person and it wasn't this person and it wasn't, because if you do that enough, when you've got like
process
an
of
anonymous
elimination,
source,
right?
Yeah, you end up identifying them. But I can tell you it was not Friedman, and I think that's quite funny that people are speculating that it was him who was giving it out.
Yeah, I think at this point, the pro Blake crowd is just trying to grasp at anything they can because I think her case is just entirely crumbling. But listen, the live chat was loving you today, and they are always thirsting after you, Josh. So we have to have you back again soon. Thank you for coming on, and
thank
we'll
you.
be
It's
following your
always fun
articles at the
coming
Daily
on.
Mail.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, go follow Josh Boswell. Go check out his articles on the Daily Mail. He just released the Bombshell Preserve exclusive that dropped this week. So don't miss it. You need a podcast with Josh. Josh is really good. I think we should have him on more regular. I want to have more regular recurring guests come on the podcast. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to have on Lauren from Court of Random Opinion and Leanne Newton, who has, a legal background. They're going to be on the show tomorrow to talk about the sanctions, talk about Ryan Reynolds, and their predictions for what's going to happen over the next couple of months with Discovery this summer. I also will have on Louis Levanti and Kristin from Spill Sesh. So if you're a fan of Spill Sesh, they'll be on the podcast on this Friday's town hall. So it's going to be fun. More guests. I'm going to have on more reporters, more legal experts. Ask Two Lawyers, I hear, are coming back. As I predicted, they've been very busy with other cases. And so just give them a minute. They'll be back. Kenny G says 100K, hit that button. Yes, guys, we are so close to hitting 100K. We're at 99.4. That's less than 600. Less than 600 that subscribers then that we can reach that 100K with. Let's see. CJ says, will the staffers testify for Baldoni? I think that's less a question for Josh and more a question for somebody with a legal background. So let's remember to ask that question tomorrow when we have Leanne on the show. I would imagine maybe some of those staffers, ideally the ones without the NDA, would be able to come forward and testify, at least as a character witness, to speak to Blake Lively's pattern of toxic workplace environment. All of this is just not looking good for her, right? It's continuing to pile up. We also have Mordecai with the super sticker. Thank you, Mordecai. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate you guys for the love. So you're going to court? I guess so. We're gonna hit 100K. It's coming soon. The 100K. I mean, I think we will definitely clear 100K by next week. So maybe Monday will have to be our 100K celebration. I don't know. I don't know if we'll hit it within the next 2 days. I mean, yesterday will be a big day. Friday will be a big day. Don't NDAs expire? I believe there is and do NDAs expire? Yes, NDAs can expire, but they don't necessarily expire at the same time for all types of information. Most NDAs specify a term, often set a number of years for the confidentiality obligations. However, some may have indefinite terms, or the confidentiality obligation may extend beyond the stated term for certain types of information, like trade secrets. So it depends on the actual NDA, but I feel like there's a general rule of thumb that it's typically about 10 years. So I don't know. We'll see. It looks like Kristin Cavallari just commented on Blake and Taylor. I haven't read this article, but let's read it together, and then we'll get into the Diddy and the Kim Kardashian stuff in just a sec. Kristin Cavallari and Justin Anderson have strong thoughts about Blake Lively, Taylor Swift's friendship. Ooh, here we go. Kristin Cavallari and her best friend Justin Anderson have some thoughts about Taylor Swift being subpoenaed in Blake Lively's ongoing legal battle with Justin Baldoni. This is from Us Weekly. Honestly, I thought it was bullshit, Cavallari said during her Tuesday, May 20th episode of Let's Be Honest. Well, I saw what her lawyer said, that it was like she had to license her song and they used it in the movie along with 19 other artists, and Taylor is the one being subpoenaed. Like like you could use any of the other ones. Both Cavallari and Anderson agreed that Swift's name being dragged into the legal drama was to garner attention. Us Weekly confirmed earlier this month that Swift had been subpoenaed. A representative for Swift told us in a statement she was not involved in the casting, creative, and did not score the film. She didn't even see an edit or made any notes to the film until weeks after the public release. Cavallari and Anderson continued to discuss the friendship between Swift and Lively during Tuesday's podcast. They're friends, and Blake threw her under the bus. Blake wrote a letter to Justin Baldoni. It's between the two of them, technically from this movie, It Ends With Us. And Blake wrote him a text message referencing Taylor Swift and Taylor being one of her dragons. It was the gayest thing I've ever heard. Okay. I think it's such a bummer. You know, I'm a massive Taylor Swift fan. I've met her in person. I think she's a wonderful person. Uh, Anderson continued, I think Taylor really does like get bamboozled by bad people. I think Taylor gets excited about new friends. Cavallari noted that Swift is too nice, while Anderson claimed that Lively's alleged treatment of others is infamous in the beauty world. Yes, very true. Noting that he has been hearing about it for years. I've been hearing about it for years. Well, here's the thing. I'm glad that the Preserve story is finally coming to light, because I've heard the details about Blake Lively's company Preserve for a very long time. I've seen emails from Blake Lively. Um, Listen, when I tell you I've known about the tea on Preserve for years, way before the Baldoni drama ever came up. I've heard about these rumors about Blake for a very long time. Okay. They continue to speculate about what the subpoena will mean for Lively and Taylor's friendship. I think this will be the end of it. I think Taylor's also one of those people, like, once you cross that line, she will be done with you. Taylor is smart, and she's not going to let somebody tarnish her reputation. Cavallari added, I feel like it's all about her image now, and she doesn't want to be dragged into this. Taylor and Blake have talked, but it's strained, according to a source. Their friendship is not what it used to be. Well, obviously. Well, yeah, they talked when Blake asked her to delete text messages. What a time. What a time, what a time, what a time. What a time, what a time, what a mighty good time. Let's see. I want to get Justin Anderson. You guys need to tell Justin Anderson, um, tell Justin Anderson he needs to come on the podcast. I know he like will dip in and comment on certain videos of mine. You guys need to tell Justin. Like, would you want to see Justin Anderson on the podcast? I feel like he would be so fun to talk about all the Taylor and Blake of it all, because I know he's been so invested in the story. And I was a fan of his apple cider vinegar wash when my hair was blonde. Start tagging him. Yes, Justin Anderson, we need you to come on the podcast. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a question, a Q&A, and tell people to send me, um, who they would like to see on the podcast, and then you guys can put those answers in, and if enough of you put Justin Anderson, I'll tag him in a story and be like, "Justin, you have to come on the show now." I would actually love to chat with Kristin about this too. I feel like she's on the fence from this. I want Nick Viall on here. Oh, wait, did I not tell you guys? We did reach out to Nick Viall's team, and like literally said, I'll go on his show, he can come on my show, or we can do a neutral show, something like Juicy Scoop, where there's a third person that kind of is more of a neutral party that can have a discussion with me and Nick, and we can dive into the Blake and Baldoni of it all. And naturally, he declined. So the invitation was asked, or the invitation was sent. We'll see. Irma says, it's not just about Taylor's image. Would you trust a friend who tried to extort you? No, I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. Um, Justin Baldoni, imagine if you got him. I mean, maybe one day, once all the legal I mean, listen, look at the Erica Jane stuff. I covered that for what, 3 years before I finally got her to sit down and give me a full 1 hour unfiltered, where we talked about her marriage to Tom, her legal complicity. Um, yeah. Y'all noticed that Josh was dressed in an architectural archaeological outfit. That's his style. That's his vibe. Okay, let's talk Diddy, because this is actually really wild. So Diddy, obviously the trial is going on right now. I've had my concerns with the trial and just what we've seen so far. But so Cassie's testimony wrapped. We heard what she had to say. I think the defense did a really good job in their cross examination and didn't make her look too good. And again, that's not me saying, I want to be very clear, because there seems to be this like narrative that I'm defending Diddy. I am not defending Diddy. I do not want to see Diddy walk free. I said this on Court TV. Like, I am not pro Diddy at all, not even a little bit. However, from what we've heard, and I've often said too, that because this trial is not televised, it makes it challenging what details that we can keep up with, right? Because we're only getting things from court transcripts. So it's been challenging. And from what I've heard about Cassie's testimony, obviously I wasn't there, where none of us are able to watch the testimony unfold. We can just go based off of the reports. But from what we've heard about the testimony, I think the defense did a really good job in their cross examination of trying to discredit her. Do I think she's a credible witness? Absolutely. However, I think the strongest claims that Cassie has made are in relation to like DV, because obviously we've seen the video, but it just, I haven't seen strong evidence or testimony in regards to like the racketeering or the trafficking charges, unfortunately, from what we've seen so far. Again, we're not in the courtroom. Obviously, I know that, you know, feds wouldn't be bringing a strong case if they didn't feel confident in the case against Diddy, but we're just going to have to see how it all plays out. But I can only look at things observationally as a member of the jury, because I'm not an attorney, I'm not a judge. I'm not a reporter in the courtroom, but just as a layman, as most, like, the jury is all laymen. They're people like you and I that get called into jury duty, and then we end up, judging these trials. So these are the people that are on, in the jury pool that are going to be making these decisions. So when we analyze these things, we have to remember they're looking at it based off of what's playing out in front of them. And so from what I've seen playing out in front of in us so far, at least in the press, I'm concerned that he may get away with this, and I'm hoping that he doesn't, but we'll see as the case continues to build. But so Cassie's mom took the stand this week, and I think the biggest bombshell that came out of her testimony is that she's claiming that Diddy made her pay him $20,000. And so he was claiming that he needed a reimbursement for the money that he spent on Cassie after he found out that she was now dating Kid Cudi, which is crazy. So Regina, Cassie's mom, she said that she had to take out a home equity loan because she was actually afraid for her daughter Cassie's safety, and that they also presented an email that was from Diddy to Cassie where he was threatening to release some of the tapes that he had of her. I assume from the freak offs. They were sex tapes that he had, but I'm assuming they were tapes that were from these freak offs that were going on. So this is extortion. So this is where I think the case is starting to get a little stronger, because they have an email. The email is to Cassie, And we have obviously, if she took out a loan and wired the money to him, those are all things that could also be tracked and presented as evidence. So they presented the email from Diddy to Cassie where he was threatening to release the tapes. And he also threatened to harm Cassie and he threatened to harm Kid Cudi. Now, Kid Cudi is now expected to be testifying, I believe, as early as this week. So maybe Thursday or Friday, maybe Monday of next week. Uncertain of when he'll be called in, but he's the next big star to be taking the stand. Aubrey O'Day, we know, is not taking the stand. She's come out and said that she's not, but also I think because a lot of her testimony would likely fall under the category of hearsay. But so now we have Kid Cudi that's going to be standing up, taking the stand. And so if you'll remember, Kid Cudi, his car was blown up and people were like trying to link it back to Diddy, but that was like a conspiracy theory. It was a rumor. Well, now it appears that that's coming into play here. I don't know if they'll be able to prove that Diddy is the one that blew up his car, but there were threats that were made from Diddy, and Diddy was very clear in his threats, at least based off of the newest testimony, is that Diddy said that they were going to be harmed, but it wasn't going to be by him. So I don't know if that's again, I don't know what evidence the prosecution has. It kind of sounds very circumstantial. It kind of sounds very much like hearsay. But if they can prove and connect these dots, because again, the evidence can't be circumstantial. There has to be very clear evidence that ties these things together in order to make it stick, you know? So, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. We also had Special Homeland Security Agent Gerald Gannon. He testified as well. He's the one that helped organize the raids on Diddy's properties. And so, like I said, the case wasn't feeling too strong last week. It's starting to feel a bit stronger this week. I think Cassie was more of a foundational witness, but her mom now coming in. Obviously, we can track the wire transfer. We have the emails, the correspondence between Diddy and Cassie with the threats that were made. Now we just have to actually connect those dots and prove that the actions were actually taken, right? There's the threat and then there's the action happening, but you have to have evidence in the middle that links the two of them together and shows that Diddy was the one that called the shot. That's the hard part, but I'm trusting that the prosecution is taking us somewhere with this. The case is starting to feel a bit stronger, but again, a lot of it focuses on like Diddy's kinks or his character. And again, kinks and character can, paint a picture of somebody, but it doesn't actually prove that they were committing these crimes. So, yeah. According to the Homeland Security agent, they found a number of different substances, which again, the substances, from what we understand, people were engaging in these willingly, or at least on their own accord. They weren't being forced to. We have text messages from Diddy to Cassie, where I guess she said that she couldn't remember the freak offs. And he's like, well, the only way to freak off is to remember them. We have to do it again to make sure you remember them. So it kind of seems like that to me is kind of a black and white piece of evidence that shows that he wasn't forcing her to take these substances. Maybe she was taking them on her own will to kind of escape what was in front of her because she no longer enjoyed participating in these. But from what the defense presented, it made it seem like she was complicit. Now, that's not to say she didn't have some form of Stockholm syndrome. That's not to say that there wasn't pressure on her. Obviously, the threats and the bribery with the tapes, those are really big. Those are compelling. I'm glad that those have now entered the conversation. But again, the most that we've seen so far would be maybe we can get Diddy on possession charges. Maybe we can get him on DV charges against Cassie. But those to me are not racketeering or trafficking charges. That's the part that's really hard. We have crimes that we could charge Diddy for, but they're lower crimes, right? Possession charges and DV charges don't hold the same weight as racketeering and trafficking and um, taking people over state lines, right? Or holding them against their will. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. I'm waiting to see how it all comes together, at least for like the racketeering and charges and whatnot. Let's talk Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian. She testified last week and she was jeweled out. She was dripped out in jewels. And listen, good for her. I predicted that the reason she was rocking all of this jewelry was to kind of make a statement that, you know, even though they tried to take all of her possessions, that's not going to stop her from living her life. right? She's still going to enjoy the lifestyle that she worked very hard for. And so I imagine that's, or my prediction was, this is why she decided to come out so dripped out in jewels. And one of the biggest things that came out was this necklace that she wore, which I've seen different reports on whether this necklace was 1.5 mil or 3 million. They It's been reported by multiple outlets that the jewelry that she was wearing that day was millions of dollars of worth of jewelry. Um, I'm uncertain on what the exact number was because again, um, I feel like the let's see if we can. The reports have been conflicting. Yeah, a lot of people are saying, or at least E News is reporting that she wore a $1.5 million necklace, but I feel like, yeah, it's being reported she was wearing an estimated $8 million worth of jewelry, including $8,000 star-studded ear cuffs. We had the $1.5 million um, necklace, but then People magazine has reported that the necklace was actually worth 3 million. So it's unsure exactly how much. People said that the she was wearing a $3 million diamond necklace. She also crafted with 18 karat white gold, weighs 57 grams, and features a total of 80 diamonds on it. Interesting. She also had her diamond ear cuff. That was an additional $8,000, and then she had some rings on too. Uncertain how much the rings were, but yeah, again, conflicting reports on how much the items cost. But I think there was a press release that went out that said that the necklace was $3 million, and they named the actual designer of the necklace. But so is that the necklace they stole or tried to steal? No, this is a new necklace. So what they really wanted was the ring, the ring that Kanye gave her. That's what they were looking for primarily. And then they stole, I believe, up to $8 million worth of jewelry in the heist. And so, yeah, Lori says that she's saying that I'm still rich, bitch. That was the statement. There was a source that came out that claims that Kim wanted to make sure she stuck it to these guys, which they're being labeled as the grandpa robbers because they're in their 60s and 70s. And she wanted to make a statement of like, yes, you may have traumatized me and robbed me and stolen my things, but I still won at the end of the day. And I'm still going to rock my jewelry and I'm still going to flaunt my wealth because I can. And I agree where some people may find this a little tone deaf and tacky, but at the same time, I do kind of get it as like, well, if she can afford it, then you know what? Good for her. Any of us, if we could afford to rock it, I think we would have rocked it too. I think this was a moment for her that maybe the general public may not understand, but for her, it was a moment of saying, fuck you. You're not going to take this away from me. I no longer live my life in fear, and you didn't win at the end of the day. And so now we are expected to have a verdict this Friday or by Friday of this week. We'll see what the verdict ultimately is. I believe there was a recommendation of 10 years for the robbers. Again, they're known as the grandpa robbers because they were so old. It was just funny. No, grandpa robbers, not grandma robbers, grandpa. She's so vain. But listen, she's entitled to be vain if she wants to be vain? Emily says, like, I get being proud of your money and accomplishments for what they are, but a little bit of discretion and modesty would be a great companion right now. I agree with that in terms of like, at least when you're in front of the jury, I mean, she told the story, right? And the story is more compelling. And the testimony in court, I think, was a lot more detailed than what we've heard in the past. Because obviously, this was addressed on Keeping Up with the Kardashians shortly after the robbery. They, filmed with Kim and she told the story to Chloe and to Courtney. She like detailed what happened. We heard her tell the story again I think she briefly touched on it on Ellen, and then she got into it more when she did David Letterman's show, My Next Guest, right? My Next Guest I think is what it was called. It was his Netflix show where he kind of like would sit down with people and have more of an in-depth interview with them. And that I feel like the David Letterman interview was the most vulnerable we had seen her, even outside of Keeping Up with the Kardashians and outside of her Ellen interview. I felt like that was the most raw interview we'd gotten from her. And even here in the testimony, we got so much more, where she talks about how I mean, a lot of the story is the same, but we got more details about how they took the concierge, they brought him to her door, she opened the door, she saw them dressed up as cops, but they had the concierge and his hands were tied, and then they got her. She tried to call someone, she tried to call, local authorities, 911, but she's like, "I don't know how to call 911 in Paris, like, it's not the same. I don't think 911 in the US works the same way it does in Paris." So she didn't know what 911 looked like in Paris. So they tied her up, she thought that they were going to, essay her. They tied her up, they left her in a bathtub. She got out of the bathtub. She used the sink after they'd left. She got out and used the sink to tear the duct tape around her hands so that she could break free. And then eventually she went out. She went onto the balcony and she hid in the bushes. I would imagine because she didn't know if they were still going to be outside or if somebody was outside her door or, you know, whatever. And she called her mom, she called her security. She had one of her other friends that was staying downstairs that heard what was going on. I think she hid until she heard the men leave and she contacted Kim's security. I think his name was Pascal. And yeah, it was just awful. Awful. I couldn't imagine, going through that. Rose says, Zach, last week you mentioned Aphrodite. I went to his channel today and watched what he said and watch what he had to say 4 months ago about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and he was so spot on. Yeah, and listen, remember he talked about Taylor Swift was gonna turn on her. His other prediction is that Ryan Reynolds is gonna be the next to turn on Blake Lively, and that their marriage is really going through it right now, despite how much they try to put out these appearances that their marriage is perfect, that they're all in this together. Isn't one of the grandpa robbers dead? Yes, I believe one of them passed away and one of them was relieved from the trial because he was sick. Not like cough sick, but like I think he had some sort of terminal illness. But yeah, that's wild that these were all these men. Tiffany says, I'm not a big Kardashian fan, but that's so traumatic. Yeah. I'm glad that she at least got to have her moment, right? Where she got to go on the stand. She got to share what happened to her and stand strong and be like, I came back. I'm in Paris. I stood up to to the robbers that tried to harm me. I'm pretty sure there was a level of gratitude that she had for the one that put her in the bathtub and just kept telling her, like, just be quiet and you'll be okay, I think is what they told her. There was a language barrier, but he said, like, just be quiet and you'll be fine. Just be quiet and you'll be fine. And then he tucked her and put her into the bathtub. But she literally, they had guns. She thought that they were going to off her, they were going to whack her, um, they were going to essay her, all the things. We'll see. We shall see. Nicolette says, I still don't know if I believe it. You don't know if you believe it's literally a case that is happening in court. You think the entire legal system, you think the entire French government is in on this? You think all the Parisian authorities are in on Kim Kardashian's scheme to what? Get press? You literally have the robbers. You have multiple robbers. They dropped one of the necklaces on the way out. They were able to, I think, track some of the jewelry that was sold or pawned off. They were able to track it and link it back to them. Some of them have already confessed to, some parts of it. I think as of right now, nobody wants to own up or fess up to being to admit who was the mastermind behind it. Yeah, one of them wrote a book about Kim Kardashian robbery. Yeah, I remember one of them wrote a book. One of the suspects in the 2016 robbery of Kim Kardashian in Paris published a memoir titled I Held Up Kim Kardashian. The book details the robbery from his perspective, and Kardashian herself addressed the publication, expressing shock and anger that the suspect was profiting from the event. She stated that she wanted to use the trial as an opportunity for closure. Additionally, a memoir by one of the suspects, Eunice Abbas, was published in 2021 titled I Kidnapped Kim Kardashian. Yeah. The book provides the suspects' accountability of the robbery, offering insights into their planning and execution. Kardashian was shocked and upset that the suspect was publishing a memoir about the robbery and profiting from it. Kardashian addressed false claims that she staged the robbery for her reality show, emphasizing that it was a real and traumatic experience. The book includes details about planning, execution, and the aftermath of the robbery. Yeah. Let's see if we can find the book. I Kidnapped Kim Kardashian book. Oh, you can't even get the book on Amazon. That's interesting. How do we find the book? A lot of it is coming from the French press. I Kidnapped Kim Kardashian. Let's see. I think it's sold in France. We want to make sure you're an actual human. Okay. There we go. Perfect. Except FNOC. FNOC is, I guess, like the Amazon. I Kidnapped Kim Kardashian. Wow. Interesting. The French press. That's what they're called, the French press. We have to be careful that just because some people are terrible people who say untrue things, bad things do happen, and we need to stand with people we need to stand with people even if they aren't their fans. Yeah, I think standing with Cassie, I think standing with Kim, I think, CJ says what's amusing is he tried to rake KFC in a bike. He tried to rake KFC in a bike and he couldn't ride it and dropped the heels all over and dropped the jewels all over. Yeah, and one of the jewels ended up being found, or a woman found, I think a woman found one of it was a necklace, right? She found the necklace and she was wearing it, and then she saw the news of the robbery and she was like, "Oh shit!" And then she turned it over to local authorities. That was kind of funny. Um, yeah. Wonder if she fired her security. No, she claimed in her testimony that she has to have like 6 security guards at her home at all times just to feel safe. Which, I mean, I would imagine when you're held at gunpoint and you go through that whole traumatic experience, and then the whole world doubts you and thinks that you're doing it for publicity. I wonder what Howard Stern says about it now, because he was very much like, she's doing this for publicity, and if she did this for publicity, she should go to jail. Well, guess who is going to jail? The old man robbers, the grandpa robbers are going to jail for it. So yeah. Ooh, okay. This is one last yummy story that we'll wrap with. I'll try to cover it quickly because it just to me was kind of wild. I know we're already well over an hour and I have to tape Chef Stew's podcast in just a bit. But yes, I'm going to be back on Chef Stew. I was on Donna Bowling's today. Or sorry, no, I was on Donna Bowling's podcast earlier this week. I was on Billy Bush's podcast. I did Court TV live. The Court TV appearance is on the YouTube channel, so you can check that out. We talk about Diddy and Aubrey O'Day. That was really cool. The attorney that was on the show with me, he was like, "We need to give Zack an honorary law degree," and I was like, "Oh, a real attorney is saying that I deserve an honorary law degree." There was a new episode of the Pop Report out this week too. It should be out today, or out now. And Andy even said, he's like, he like complimented me and said that my strength is in explaining the legal jargon when it comes to these celebrity like legal scandals. And I was like, that's so nice. Like you guys are saying such nice things about me. That makes my soul so happy. That's wild that they wrote a book about their crime. Well, I think because they were already being investigated, that at that point they knew that they were going down. Kim says you can really tell Billy Bush enjoys having you on his show. I made him crack up quite a bit, which was fun. He's going to be on my show, I believe, next week. So stay tuned for that. Grab your friends, wear your florals. Stay tuned. Okay, there's this article that came out that I read this morning. Donna Bowling actually sent it to me yesterday, but I didn't read it until this morning. And I just thought it was really funny from the Daily Mail about Violet Affleck, who's Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck's daughter, and how she did this research paper for school. And in her research paper, she drags Jennifer Garner and even her brother, which to me was really, really funny. So here, I'll kind of skim the article for you, but it came out in the Daily Mail. So their daughter Violet, it says she details a fiery argument that she had with her mom, Jennifer Garner, in a hotel room over the catastrophic LA fires. So she wrote an essay for Yale. I guess that's where she's currently going to school. And so she talks about, she said, I spent the January fires in Los Angeles arguing with my mother in a hotel room. And so the paper she wrote was titled "A Chronically Ill Earth: COVID Organizing as a Model Climate Response in Los Angeles." Dun dun dun. And then it's so, I'm like, this girl's so young and she's like wearing a mask everywhere she goes. She's literally 19. I got the power. But so she says that she complained that the behavior of the wealthiest citizens was one of the driving forces behind the climate crisis. She says that her mom, Jennifer Garner, was shell-shocked and astonished at the scale of destruction in the neighborhood where she raised myself and my siblings, leaving Violet surprised at her surprise. She was surprised that Jennifer Garner was surprised by the destruction. And then Violet writes, as a lifelong Angelina, which I'm from Los Angeles. We don't call ourselves, we barely want to call ourselves Angelinos, and calling yourself an Angelina is even worse. Like Angelina Jolie, no thank you. As a lifelong Angelina and climate literate and climate literate member of Gen Z, my question has not been whether the Palisades would burn, but when. I was like, damn, that's a pretty bold statement, girl. Not whether it would burn, but when. I want to know what Spencer Pratt has to say about this. She said, as I chatted with the adults in the hotel we'd gone to escape the smoke, though I found my position to be an uncommon one, people spoke of how long rebuilding would take, how much it would cost, and how tragically odd the whole situation had been. The crisis was acute, but a burst of bad luck. It had come from a combination of high winds and low rains. Violet also recalled her younger brother Samuel being skeptical of the wildfires having anything to do with climate change, asking, what did global warming have to do with the speed of the winds? And she said, hopefully, most of us understand the climate crisis better than my little brother. I'm just like, girl just came to like scorch everybody. She was like she just wanted to burn her whole family like they were the damn Palisades. She said, driven by unsustainable consumption patterns concentrated among the wealthiest citizens of the wealthiest countries, all of which have already subjected most of this country and the world's deadly temperatures, fire flood cycles, rising seas, and dying crops. She hates being rich. I'm sure most of us would be willing to trade places with Violet. Um, yeah, she said that she compared the public health protocols used in the climate disasters, and she called for recognition of the methods and political commitments of the COVID conscious and disabled communities. Remember, she was fighting to make sure that like mask bans weren't a thing, and now she like wears her mask everywhere she goes, and I'm like, good for you. But I mean, come on. Spencer would be fun to have on your show. Yeah, I agree. I can't with all the BS. Enrique says American Nepo babies are insane. It's just crazy because I'm just like, she's so mad that she's rich and she's like angry at the rich. She's like, eat the rich when she is the rich. I'm like, I would love to see it's so wild when you see like these very privileged, you know, I feel like it's the woke white people, mainly the woke white girls, like the Violet Afflecks of the world that need to make themselves such a victim and so oppressed. I was having a conversation with my family on Mother's Day, and we were talking about, how we come across so many people that like want to make themselves feel oppressed in some way, and they want to find trauma in their childhood or trauma in their upbringing. I'm like, yeah, I feel like in my 20s, I kind of got wrapped up in that where I was like, oh, my parents, or oh, this, or oh, that. And I feel like just now in my 30s, I'm so much like, listen, shit happens. And this is just for me, and I can only speak for me. And also, I've been very vocal about the LA fires and how I do not, as somebody that lived here and witnessed it all unfold, I did not believe that climate change was the driving factor behind those LA fires. And now that we've seen arsonists be arrested for them, which you're not hearing too much about in the mainstream media, now the coverage of the LA fires has gone down. But yeah, the embers. Donna Bowling and I were very vocal about that. We got beaten up all over the internet for being like, how we live here. We're watching this play out. How did the embers fly 40 miles to start a fire in the Palisades and then a fire in Pasadena? Like, what? It doesn't make sense. Whatever. But I think, yeah, like I said, in my 20s got caught up in like a bit of that victimhood. And now just in my 30s, I'm like, I don't care to be oppressed. I don't care to like find all the ways that I'm a victim. I would rather focus on the ways to get out of my victimhood and to find ways to overcome obstacles rather than to be cemented by them. I just think how boring to be offended by everything in the world. Like how sad. Sophie's like laughed my ass off to her shading her brother, right? Her brother's probably like, how old is her brother? How old are Jennifer Garner's kids? Uh Her brother, okay, this doesn't tell me the ages. Oh, her brother is 16. Okay, a 16-year-old is not gonna understand, is not gonna be climate literate, okay? He's 16 fucking years old. He knows how to play, I don't know, Super Smash Brothers, Grand Theft Auto. What's the game that they all play? He's probably too busy trying to do Pokemon Go than he is caring about the climate literacy. But it's just funny. She like, let me drag my mom. She's like, can you believe my rich mom was shocked that rich people are ruining the planet? And then she's like, and can you believe my stupid brother doesn't know about climate literacy? I'm just like, I can't hear you. Can you speak a little louder? Your mask is muffling your speech. Your mask is muffling your oppression. Mom Unscripted says, empowered individuals don't play victimhood. Yeah. Irma found me because of the fires. See, that's how I know you're a real one, Irma. Because if you found me during the fires and you stood with me, I appreciate that. Cooper says, love you, Zach. Hi from Dubai. Hi, Dubai. CJ says, oh my God, I can't stop laughing. What are you laughing at? Irma says, Violet has been on the I know better than you shtick for a long time. Yeah, listen, anybody yelling at me with the fucking mask on outside, I'm just like, you know what? You and your 54 genders and your 38 autoimmune conditions, and I can't. Sorry. Thank you. Next. Swipe left. Okay. And on that note, definitely be sure to subscribe on YouTube if you haven't done so yet. And if I didn't scare you off just yet, and be sure to get your tickets. Grab your friends, wear your florals. Queen Bee says, I've heard nothing on the arson. Yeah, there were some people that were being investigated, and there were some homeless people that were arrested for starting fires. Because again, there were little fires everywhere. Little fires everywhere. That wasn't global warming. God didn't just say, all right, you fucked up the planet. Let me pick Los Angeles and let me zoom in on Los Angeles. Let me put a magnifying glass over it and the sun. Let's light up at Los Angeles. I don't believe the conspiracy theories about like, oh, they're trying to destroy Diddy evidence, or they're trying to destroy the underground tunnels, or they're building smart cities or whatever. I don't buy into all of that. I'm just saying there are questions that we didn't get answers to. Okay, but grab your friends, wear your florals. Let's get it. Ness says she wears a mask because she has a condition that affects her immune system. Listen, my love, everything, we all have immune systems, and we all have things that affect our immune systems. Autoimmune disease. Trust me, I come from the world of autoimmune disease. I worked with people with autoimmune disease. They were surviving just fine without, the little CVS face masks. She's 19 years old. You're supposed to have a strong immune system at 19 years old. Like, my goodness. Tiffany said the underground tunnels had me dead. Like, is that grass all burnt up? Yeah, that's funny. Sophie says, I'll help the climate by buying tickets to every show and needing to fly to every city. Thank you, Sophie. There you go. Guys, yeah, obviously reduce, reuse, recycle, do all the things, be socially conscious, be mindful of your environmental footprint. Just don't be a violet, Like, do things to help the planet, but like, don't be annoying. Okay? That's all. Get your tickets. Come see me live in person. I'm coming to Dallas, Phoenix. Dallas, I know you don't believe in climate change. I'll see you soon. I believe in climate change. I do. I just want to say that. I want to be clear. We should protect and preserve the planet. I'm going to get canceled today. We should preserve and protect the planet. But some people go a little crazy. And again, when you're yelling at me with the mask on, I don't take you seriously. Anyway, I'm coming to Dallas, Phoenix, Philadelphia, Toronto, Brooklyn, Chicago, Seattle, and Los Angeles. Get your tickets at nofilterlive.com. So many yummy guests that are going to be coming on through. So come on down. Come on down. Let's get it. Get it. Get it. Get it. And throw them hips, girl. Oh, well, at least we can say, climate change is going to be corrected now that Gayle King and Katy Perry went to space. Because remember, Gayle King said that the reason we went to space was so that we can find out if we can dump our trash out there. There we go. Save the planet by killing the space you know? And people are like, space is so big, it doesn't matter if we pollute it. Do you not know how big space is? I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah. See, Yelp said, Yelp says she should have eaten more dirt when she was little, built her immune system right up. Yeah, I agree. Listen, the way you build your immune system is by, using your immune system, not hiding it. Climate change is today's Oppenheimer, is it? Oh, Gail King is an astronaut. We can't talk to her. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. Guys, like I said, get your tickets to nofilterlive.com. I will talk to you tomorrow. Love you. Appreciate you. Give me a follow, Just Plain Zach. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. I probably lost some subscribers. Probably going to get some mean Apple Podcast reviews. So if you like the show, please leave me a nice Apple Podcast review. Recycle. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Talk to you tomorrow. I have Lauren from Court of Random Opinion and Leanne Newton that are supposed to be on the podcast if they haven't turned on me after today's episode. And Louis Levanti and Christy from Spill Sesh this Friday. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Ciao for now. Bye.